Welcome to a deep dive into Leviticus 11.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be exploring a fascinating chapter from the Bible.
Okay.
And not just listing the clean and unclean foods of ancient Israel.
Right.
But really trying to dig into why these distinctions existed.
Yeah.
What can they tell us about their culture, beliefs, and even their environment?
Interesting.
And get ready for some surprises.
Okay.
Because while you might expect no pork on the menu, ancient Israelites could eat things that might raise an eyebrow or two today.
It's true.
It's really a window into a different way of thinking about food.
Yeah. One that was deeply intertwined with their relationship with God and their understanding of the world around them.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Sure.
We'll start on familiar grounds, the land animals.
Okay.
Leviticus 11 sets a very specific standard.
Right.
To be considered clean, an animal must have cloven hooves and chew the cud.
Okay.
So no pork chops for the ancient Israelites.
No pork chop.
But it makes you wonder, what was so significant about those two characteristics?
Well, that's a question that has intrigued scholars for centuries.
Yeah.
One theory is that these criteria may have had roots in practical observation.
Okay.
Animals that chew the cud, like cows and sheep, tend to graze on cleaner vegetation.
Oh, that makes sense.
And the cloven hoof with its two toes might have been seen as symbolizing a separation or distinction, a physical marker of purity, perhaps?
Interesting. So it's not just a random rule.
Right.
But possibly connected to ideas about hygiene and even symbolic meaning.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
Camels, for example, they chew the cud, but don't have fully split hoofs.
Right.
So they were off the menu.
Precisely.
And then there's the case of hares. They were also deemed unclean for not having a split hoof.
Yeah.
But the ancient observation was a bit off.
Oh.
Hares don't actually chew the cud.
Interesting.
What they do is called refection.
Okay.
Re-ingesting partially digested food. A completely different process from the rumination of cows or sheep.
So they get that one a little wrong.
Yeah. So even with careful observation, there's room for interpretation, especially when we're looking back through the lens of modern science.
Right.
It makes you wonder how those ancient distinctions might have evolved over time.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's shift gears and dive into the sea.
Right.
Here, the rule is simple.
Okay.
Fins and scales equal edible. Anything else is a no-go.
Which means a lot of what we consider seafood delicacies today, shellfish like shrimp, lobster, crab clams, would have been strictly forbidden. Imagine the impact on our modern diets.
It really highlights how our perception of what is food is so deeply shaped by culture and tradition.
For sure.
What might seem strange to us was perfectly normal for the ancient Israelites.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Absolutely. It's fascinating to consider how something as fundamental as food can be viewed so differently across cultures and time periods.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of different perspectives, let's move on to the birds.
Okay.
Leviticus gives us a long list of forbidden feathered friends.
All right.
Owls, vultures, eagles, ravens. Many recognizable names even today.
Right.
But some of the bird names are lost to time.
Yeah.
Difficult to translate with certainty.
It reminds us that language is a living thing, constantly evolving. What might have been a common name for a specific bird in ancient Israel could be completely lost to us now, making it a challenge to pinpoint exactly which species they were referring to.
Yeah.
It adds another layer of complexity to understanding these ancient texts.
Okay, are you ready for the real curveball?
I think so.
Because while some of these prohibited foods might seem expected, some of the permitted ones might surprise you.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Insects.
Yes, certain insects were considered perfectly acceptable, even desirable food for the ancient Israelites, specifically locusts, crickets, and grasshoppers.
I have to admit that one throws me for a loop.
Yeah.
I mean, I know those are eaten in some parts of the world today, but it's definitely not something I grew up with.
It's a great example of how our ideas about what's food are often culturally determined.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What might seem strange or even repulsive to one culture could be a delicacy in another.
That's true.
And it's interesting to note that those particular insects are actually quite nutritious.
Okay.
High in protein and other essential nutrients.
Wow.
Perhaps the ancient Israelites were onto something.
Maybe we should give them a try.
Ha.
Okay, so Leviticus lays out all these specific rules about what's considered clean and unclean to eat.
Right.
But the implications go beyond just diet, right?
Exactly. Leviticus 11 introduces the concept of ritual purity,
okay,
which was incredibly important in ancient Israelite culture.
Interesting.
It wasn't just about eating clean animals.
Yeah.
Touching an unclean animal, even its carcass, could render a person ritually unclean.
What does that mean, ritually unclean?
Oh.
Like, what were the implications?
Well, it meant that you were temporarily in a state of separation from God, from the community.
Okay.
Specific rituals were required to restore purity.
Like what?
Washing clothes, waiting until evening, sometimes even offering sacrifices.
Wow.
These rules went beyond mere hygiene.
I see.
They were about maintaining a state of holiness, of right relationship with the divine and with the community.
So these dietary laws were deeply intertwined with their religious beliefs and practices?
Absolute. Food wasn't just about sustenance.
Yeah.
It was a way of expressing their faith, of living in accordance with God's laws, and of maintaining a distinct identity as a people set apart.
It really makes you think about how even something as seemingly simple as what we eat can have such profound cultural, religious, and even social significance.
For sure.
But when we look at these rules, it's hard not to wonder why. Why were these particular animals deemed unclean?
Yeah.
Was it purely symbolic?
Yeah. It's a good question.
Were there practical reasons?
That's a question that has fueled countless debates and interpretations over the centuries.
Yeah.
There's no one definitive answer, but there are some compelling theories.
Okay.
As we mentioned earlier, some scholars believe that certain prohibitions, like the ban on pork, might have had a basis in hygiene. Pigs, for example, can be susceptible to certain parasites that could have posed health risks in the ancient world.
So kind of ancient food safety system.
Precisely. But it's likely that symbolism also played a significant role. Some animals might have been associated with other cultures' deities or religious practices, making their consumption taboo for the Israelites who sought to maintain their own unique religious identity.
Interesting.
And of course, there's the social aspect.
Yeah.
Shared dietary practices can be incredibly powerful in creating a sense of belonging and group cohesion.
That makes sense.
These rules help to distinguish the Israelites from their neighbors, reinforcing their identity as a chosen people.
So it's a complex tapestry of possible explanations.
Right.
Hygiene, symbolism, social identity.
Yeah.
All interwoven to create this system of dietary laws that had a profound impact on their daily lives and their worldview. It's like a window into their understanding of the natural world, their relationship with God, and their place within society.
Exactly. It's a reminder that these ancient texts aren't just about rules and regulations. They offer us a glimpse into the hearts and minds of a people grappling with profound questions about their place in the universe and their relationship with the divine.
Yeah, it really makes you realize that food is so much more than just fuel.
Absolutely.
It's intertwined with our beliefs, our values, our culture, our history.
And it's fascinating to see how these ancient ideas about food continue to resonate with us today.
Even if we don't follow the same dietary laws.
Right, exactly.
So let's bring it back to you, our listener.
Okay.
We've journeyed from that familiar no pork rule to the surprising inclusion of insects on the ancient Israelite menu.
Yeah, quite a journey.
We've explored the concept of ritual purity and the many layers of meaning behind these dietary laws. Hygiene, symbolism, social identity.
Right.
But what's this so what for us today?
I think Leviticus 11 offers a powerful invitation to examine our own relationship with food.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What rules do we follow consciously or unconsciously?
Right. Are they based on health concerns, ethical beliefs, environmental awareness, cultural norms, or simply personal preferences?
It's like food for thought. Literally.
Exactly.
It challenges us to think about the stories behind the food we eat.
Yeah, where it comes from, how it's produced, what values it represents, and to recognize that those choices, what we choose to eat and not eat, can be just as powerful and meaningful as any ancient law.
Wow.
They reflect our understanding of the world, our place in it, and our responsibility to ourselves and to the planet.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Leviticus 11, we leave you with a final thought to chew on. What other ancient dietary laws or food traditions exist in different cultures and religions? What can they teach us about different ways of seeing the world and our relationship with food?
It's a great question.
It's a fascinating exploration, and we encourage you to continue the journey.
Absolutely.